You are listening to the epic Diabetic podcast with Diabetic Dad, Harvey, and Jules, who's keeping those naughty boys under control.
Hello, welcome back. Some of us have changed our clothes, some of us haven't. In this podcast, we're going to talk about complaining and challenging HCPs and the fallout once you've done such a thing. I think between us all, we've all had an issue or two that we can talk about today, and that's happened lately between us all. So let's begin with Jules. Jules, do you want to tell us about your challenging or complaining issue lately?
Yeah, it's quite a straightforward, basic thing to do with test strips. I, because of my MS, I shake and I have lost quite a lot of sensation in my hands, and so putting the little test strips into the meter is not easy for me. So I use an AccuCheck pump meter, blood testing meter, and it's got a cassette, so that instead of putting in test strips, it just, when you like open the cover, it just feeds round the test strips, it like in a rolling format. So you just need to prick your finger and then touch it to the meter. So there's none of these sticks in and out, because I can't do that. And when I asked for these, I was told they were too expensive. And I said, okay, but that's the meter I've got. And they told me I had to get a new meter. Well, you have to get another one then, that takes whatever sticks they said. And I said, but the issue is I can't put the sticks into the meter. Well, you'll have to go back to your consultant to find out what to do, because this is all we can do. This is all we can give you. So it was a GP. I should have said it was the GP that was saying this. So I had to go back to my consultant and say what the situation was. And they then had to write to the GP and insist that I got the cassettes, because it was the only machine that I could physically use. And so, yeah, I did get the cassettes, and that's what I'm still using. But it was the fact that they'd got their rules. I didn't fit into any of the tick boxes, because they don't look at individuals. They don't. I find the whole thing with tech very ableist, if I'm honest. When I use an insulin pump, and I don't have a choice what insulin pump I use, and there are issues with it where, like when you load the cartridge, you have to press a button and hold it. I can't do that very easily. I really struggle to do that, but there's no choice. And when I've questioned it before, I was on Animas before I went on to Medtronic, and there was an issue with the Animas that I was struggling with. And when I said to the team about it, they just said, well, you'll have to go back to MDI then. And that was it. So my issue is the amount of time diabetes is 24/7. You have to think about everything, not just what you're going to eat. It's everything, including stress that can be brought on by issues like this. You then need to spend your time emailing or on the phone to your consultant explaining why you need this done for you. It's a waste of NHS time and money, just to be sending letters backwards and forwards saying, just give her what she's had for the last however many years. And I also hate the fact that I have to constantly prove my disability, I have to constantly explain why I can't use something. And that's a very negative thing to do. As a person with a disability, it's very negative to have to focus on that. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't use that because my hand doesn't work. None of your business if my hand works or not. So yeah, that's kind of my gripe. I've had a little bit of a rant there, sorry, but that's my gripe is how if you don't fit into a box, they don't look at you as an individual very often, and the amount of time and effort it takes for us as patients to sort out what are really could be quite straightforward issues. I don't feel that we should have to be involved in that, but we do.
Do you find as well, touching on obviously saying like they've got specific rules, so you can't have this and you can't have that if it's not pre-approved and they're not looking at you. Do you find, because this is something that I found going onto this, like once I was onto the CGM, like some of the comments that I've had from healthcare professionals, some of the rules that you actually have localized agreements between that set of healthcare professionals. So they're not rules. What they are is, we don't want to spend this money if we don't think it's giving us a benefit. So we're going to tell you what it is that you get to do, or we will take it away.
Exactly that, because this issue came about when I changed GP surgeries. So the new surgery wanted me on something cheaper.
Yeah.
Without looking into
it doesn't cost anything
why.
extra from what it did for your original GP. They just don't want to pay for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, though it's something, though it's just test strips, when you start looking at other things like pumps, like the CGMs that are apparently coming in later this year, it's a postcode lottery as to whether you'll get them or not, because local agreements will be brought in. So it's not just nice guidelines, it'll be, you know, other things that people will spin in, and it's another hoop you have to jump through. And choice is the other thing, where, you know, so there are some places I see people on Twitter saying, oh, I need to change my pump this year. Now, which one should I go for? I've got these three options. I've never had an option. It's like this pump or MDI, end of. And it's always been that. So it's quite unfair, I think, throughout the country. It depends on where you live. And that's my concern for when the CGM thing comes in, is that I think that a lot of places are just going to say, well, we've got Libre 2, which works like a CGM. So what more do you need?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I think choice definitely has to be an important thing, top of the agenda, maybe when all of this changes, if it changes. It looks like it will. Just to say to somebody, well, okay, you can have a pump, and it's this pump, and that's it. I think they need to consider the individual. You know, diabetes is a disability, but we've got other disabilities. Some of them can be physical or hidden disabilities, and that needs to be taken into account when it comes to tech. If you can use a piece of tech, fantastic. And if it works for you and you like it and it's changing your diabetes and making you feel good and keeping you healthy, good. If you can't use it, if you physically can't use it, it's pointless, and you need access to other technologies that you can use. It almost sounds a little bit, would it be fair to say, it sounds a bit like PIP, personal independence payment, where you apply for that, you have to talk in a negative way about yourself and tell them the things you can't do. I can't do this, I can't do that, and therefore maybe I'll be entitled to what PIP is. I don't know. Or maybe I'll be entitled to a pump or CGM of a certain type. Would that be a fair thing to say? Does it seem like
Yeah, it's exactly like that. It is. It's so negative when I have to do I have to keep reapplying for PIP, even though the two conditions or two of the conditions that I live with are incurable. I still have to keep renewing my personal independent payments, and to renew it you have to go through the complete form. You can't say nothing's changed because they won't accept that. So you have to go through the whole negative thing, and I go into a terrible mental downward spiral when I'm going through that, because most of the time the first thing they do is they knock you back and they take your PIP away, and then you have to I can't appeal it. You have to go to appeal, which means going to a tribunal, which by the time you've gone through all of this, you're just so tired and fed up. You're like, it's just not worth it. So that's what they hope you do, so that they save themselves some money. And it's just the same with things like tech. I feel it's just the same. We're not going to give you the option. We're only going to say this is what you can have, and if that's not any good for you, then great, we've saved money and don't have to pay out. And then you see things happening. So I'm off on one again. Then you see things happening like, the whole looping and everything, which looks fantastic. And it's like, here's looping. This is great. We can do it now, but you can't have it because you can't afford whatever sensors they are. It's like the Medtronic 780, I think. It works with Eversense, I think they're called, certain sensor. And so if you go low, it suspends the insulin, which is brilliant for me when I live on my own. I've got MS and my hypo symptoms are masked by the MS symptoms. So that would be perfect for me, but I can't afford those sensors. And the NHS won't pay for those sensors. So here is the perfect option for you, Jules. This would be brilliant, but you can't have it. That's what it feels like. I'm so sorry I ranted.
No, it's absolutely fine. I think even obviously in terms of being probably of the three of us, probably like the healthiest one, we, in terms of like the additional things that I have, it's the same. It's no different. You get given, obviously it's a massive barrier for you. For me, it's a minor phone call and I have to like make a bit of a complaint, but you get told things like, so if you're not using it properly, we will take it away. You'll take things that mean that I will stay alive away from me. Are you actually out of your mind? Are you kidding? Like, absolutely. I totally get what you're saying. Like, they create the barrier there so that they can save the money for people who aren't going to use it properly, which does make sense on paper. But then you have people like me who get so disillusioned with what I'm doing and having to do it every day and not feeling like I'm being supported. So my diabetes management gets worse because I ignore it. Then I get X, Y, and Z. I get told, that my diabetes management is a joke by healthcare professionals, that I am so disillusioned that it gets even worse. Then I get told, oh, you've got retinopathy, but we'll see you in 6 months. We're not really fussed. It's a constant vicious cycle of the NHS being so massively underfunded that they've got to save money somewhere, which is totally understandable, to putting it as a detriment to people that need it, which means that they have to spend more money looking after us.
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But then they'll put paracetamol on a prescription. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. Just, give us the things for the tools that mean that we're going to thrive instead of just survive. Like, it doesn't, doesn't make any sense to me that you would put barriers in the way of people's health when we are not the people that are paying for our healthcare, in terms of it's not coming out of my pocket. If it was, I'd probably already be dead. But
Yes.
Realistically, it's not, we have like a nationally funded service. So put the money into the people that need it. Don't just save all the money that you can so that we can spend an extra bit of money, paying Boris Johnson an extra $2,500. Like, it doesn't, stuff like that just doesn't compute, doesn't calculate in any sort of real way.
Yeah.
It just makes people upset. And, no wonder everybody that's got some sort of autoimmune disease or, recurring illness, no wonder that most of them have got mental health issues as well.
Yeah.
Because you're having to do a full-time job of looking after yourself, then having to fight to be able to look after yourself, then do your actual job, then, look after your kids or do X, Y, and Z. It's exhausting. I need to sip of coffee because I'm so mad. I need to calm down.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's odd, isn't it? It almost seems sort of short-sighted. So I think HCPs, when they go to work each day, surely it's a question of, I want to make this person feel better, or I want to maintain their health, and I want them to have a positive appointment and go away and feel like, things are getting better, or they're going to get better soon, or I'm okay as I am. I'm maintaining the status quo, and that surely is the goal of the HCP when you have an appointment with whoever, consultant, DSM, whoever. Surely that's their goal. But to have that said to you, Harvey, where they've said your management is a joke, I think that's only used. And unless you start using this technology in the way we say, we're going to take this off you. That to me will only send you down a negative avenue. I believe whether that's with diabetes and your numbers, your HbA1c could jump up, or just with your mental well-being. If it's not working, if something isn't working, surely the solution is, but let's find out why. Why is that not working? Let's find an option and change that and make that better for you, instead of, this is a joke, we're going to take that off you. That's not healthcare. That's
What were the circumstances around that, Harvey? Who said it? Was it a DSN or a consultant or a GP?
So, both those comments were from separate people. So when I first started using the CGM, obviously, when it's a new thing, it's all very exciting, and you're scanning like about 40 times a day because you're like, "Ooh, look at this!" Just scanning it constantly. But a couple of months down the line, I get diabetes fatigue really quickly, really easily. I can engage with it for a little bit, because it's the same with like the online community and stuff. I'll engage with it like really hardcore for a very short amount of time, and because my mental health around my diabetes is quite poor, I then burn out very quickly and can't engage with it for a little while without it being something that's really arduous. And I think, well, what's the point? And I push myself away from it because I don't want to go down the avenue of being depressed about, like, properly actually depressed about it, because I've been there before I had diabetes, and it's not somewhere I would like to go again. So I just kind of push it to one side, and I'm like, right, I'll pick this back up when I can. I'll just do me for now, and I'll work it out. I'll sort it out. So I got to one of those points. I was scanning maybe 3 times a day because I just can't engage with it. I physically can't engage with that without thinking, what's the point? What's the point in any of this? And that would get worse. So I just did a little bit less. And I got called by my DSN. And she was like, "You okay?" She's really supportive, around my mental well-being and how I'm doing and stuff like that. And it was a flippant offhand comment, but obviously it's a real thing. And she was like, if you don't scan at least 8 times a day, say, you're not logging what it is that you're doing, and you're not monitoring yourself and looking after yourself, this will be taken away from you. And it absolutely won't be, because they can't do that. And if they do, I'll kick up such a fuss. And she knows the sort of person that I am. She's, but she's trying to make a point of making it serious. Absolutely fine. I totally get it. But if I'm not in the mental state to even take what's happening to my own body seriously, you think talking to me like that's going to help? I don't think so. The other comment was from a doctor from an individual company. The diabetes area that I'm in, patients to private companies, with this whole what's happening in the NHS and all that sort of stuff started getting, deferred out to private companies. And I'm not going to say what company it is because I think that's just trash, and I did say to her, so I don't need to. But the person that was on the phone to me didn't really understand what I was talking about when I was talking about my diabetes management. Continually changed the way round in what he was talking about. So if I was talking on a 1-to-1 level of insulin to carbs, if I was talking about, so if I said, it's 1-to-1, so it's a unit to 10 grams, that's my 1-to-1. He was like, right, that's okay then. And then he started talking about 7.5s to stuff, and I was like, no, I can't do that. It has to be whole numbers. I don't get a 0.5 pen or anything like that. And he just wasn't listening. He was just giving me all these different numbers and stuff like that. And he was like, well, have you tried doing this? Have you tried doubling and things like that? And I'm like, so you want me to double the amount of insulin that I'm taking? Like just off the bat, you want me to just go straight to double what I'm taking? So there was red flags and stuff already. And then he was like, can you go on to your app and go through and tell me what you've been for like the last 30 days, how much you've been in Target and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, my time in Target at that time, when I had just left a job, was living in a hotel because I didn't have a bathroom in my own home. I had all this stuff that meant things were in the air and I wasn't eating like I was supposed to be, and I wasn't doing my diabetes management like I was supposed to be. All of that sort of stuff was all in the air. And he said, so what's your time in Target? And I said, it was something like 32%, something like that. Which, yeah, absolutely, it's probably a bit too low. I say probably a bit. It is definitely too low. But at the time, did I care? No, absolutely not. And I was just told, well, that's a joke. Your diabetes management is a joke, because that should be at least 70%. And I was like, I don't think I've ever been 70%, mate. So it was, it was a bit of an eye-opener, and I was incredibly angry about it. And I'm no longer under the care of that company for a very specific reason, which is the way that he spoke to me. And I wouldn't take that off my own mother without slapping her across the face. I wouldn't take it off him either. So
that's kind of what I was going to get to. We're maybe coming to the end of this podcast, but I was just, if we could squeeze it in, what was the fallout of those conversations, those discussions and complaints? So you're not under that care anymore, obviously. You've moved on to another, I guess, department somewhere.
I've just been deferred back to my original healthcare provider, which is the area's diabetes management centre, which, instead of somebody from London ringing me, should have always been them anyway. It makes absolutely 0% to me for somebody that doesn't work in diabetes management to then speak to me about diabetes management. It's really bizarre, but yeah. So I'm no longer part of the care of that company whatsoever, because I won't be spoken to like that. I don't care who you are, whether it's about diabetes management or not. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's not just the way he spoke to you, but it's all the red flags, like casually saying, have you tried doubling your insulin? My God, what?
Yeah.
If you weren't particularly engaged with your diabetes, you may well have gone, oh, okay then. Yeah, I'll just do. You're the doctor. I'll just do what you say.
Been somebody that's brand new, doesn't know better, like doesn't understand the pitfalls of doing that, or the outright danger of doing something like that. But we were talking about the different types of insulin though, because I'm moving on to a different quick acting insulin, and he didn't know what insulins I was talking about. He didn't really know what they were or how they worked or anything like that. He couldn't tell me, because I think at one point I said, oh, I don't remember which insulin I'm going on to, and he couldn't tell me what the different types of insulin were. So I was like, this is not for me. If you haven't got a clue what it is that you're talking about, absolutely not. Might as well just have like Jim from down the road, like saying, oh yeah, have you casually tried just, a hot cinnamon drink? That always works.
Yeah.
It is concerning, like Jules said. If you weren't engaged, maybe your knowledge of things was less, or you were new, you were maybe newly diagnosed. You may have just taken that information and as you said, you're the doctor, you're DSN, yeah. And where would you be?
Like, genuinely, if I was a less together with it person, or somebody that had like a mental incapability or like anything like that, and they were just casually having that conversation with them on the phone, you could have killed somebody. That's terrifying, that people will just accept that kind of advice. No, thank you.
I think I even mentioned on Twitter not that long ago that we I think many of us now, we don't just take advice and just accept it. We sort of investigate it a bit, and that investigation might be to talk about amongst our peers, maybe tweet or Facebook or something, and just say, I've been told this today, what do you think? And then the feedback comes, that doesn't make sense. Doubling insulin? What? And then you kind of question what you've been told. You might go to Google or something like that. When I'm told something and it's something new and I don't understand it, I'll accept what I've been told, but I won't make an immediate change. I'll investigate it, because if you're dealing with insulin, like Harvey said, that can kill you quite quickly and effectively. So for me, I'm gonna be careful with that sort of stuff, especially if it involves dose changes. I think maybe we've covered quite a lot in this one. Maybe there's more to talk about.
That was my fault.
Yeah, Jules, taking up the whole podcast again. I think we've covered a lot actually in that one, but I think that's a big conversation. I think that's a big issue that maybe we could talk about again in future. But maybe we can end it for now, and we'll come back and talk about something else in the next podcast. But for now, you've got all the links down below, all the usual stuff, likes, leave a comment if you want. Hit that notification bell, and then when we publish a video, like twice a year, maybe, you'll get a little thing saying, there's a new video, go watch a video. Do that. It's cool. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time. Bye for now.